Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll continue reading from chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe from the Canto 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is from, we are reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 7, which is the Science of God. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Loud gasps arose from the kings and the sages. Yudhishthir asked the question on everyone's mind, did Lord Brahma grant all these boons? Yes, he did, replied Narad. Why, surely he knew the demon would misuse his powers. Hiranyakashipu had performed extremely difficult austerities which satisfied Brahma. Yudhishthir looked puzzled. Brahma but practically made him immortal. Who else has ever received such a benediction? What did he do next? Yes, such a boon is very rare, said Narad. Listen as I tell the story. Brahma sat on his swan carrier, hovering slightly above Hiranyakashipu's towering frame, a smile touching the corner of his lips. The demon hoped for immortality, but no boon could protect him from Vishnu. Brahma said, the boons you have asked me for are very difficult for any man to obtain. However, since I have promised to fulfill your desires, I shall grant them on this one occasion. Hiranyakashipu knelt before the god. All glories to Lord Brahma, he cried, the giver of infallible benedictions. The demon recited eloquent prayers, worshipping Brahma as he and his entourage ascended toward the heavens. Hiranyakashipu's powerful new body shone with a golden luster like a god. His mind, however, was dark with thoughts of revenge. He was intent on destroying Vishnu for killing his brother. Taking to the skies, he swiftly returned to his palace and summoned his generals. He immediately led them in a military campaign to conquer the 3 planetary systems. His troops overran every planet in the universe and seized the rulers. They bound them and dragged them before Hiranyakashipu, who stripped them of all their powers and appropriated their authorities. Humans, Gandharvas, Garudas, Nagas, Siddhas, Charans, Vidyadhars, the celestial sages Yamaraj and Manu, Yakshasas, Rakshasas, Pishachas, and Bhutas all came under his control. The famous Nandan gardens of heaven enchanted the demon, and he decided to take up residence in Indra's opulent palace. He strode into the vast assembly hall, gazing around in admiration. The demon laughed. Oh, so this is the sacred friendship of Vishwakarma. Why it is so lavish that it seems to be the residence of goddess of fortune? To the sound of victorious trumpets and the rolling of drums, Hiranyakashipu ascended the coral steps leading into the palace. He nodded approvingly at the emerald-embedded floors and crystal walls and Vaidurya stone columns. Beautifully decorated canopies adorned by ruby-bedecked seats. Hiranyakashipu entered his new bedchamber. The silk bedding, as white as foam, was fringed with pearls. The ladies curtsied gracefully as he approached. Hiranyakashipu gently raised the chins of some of those nymphs and admired the extraordinary beauty. They smiled nervously, showing their beautiful teeth. Other ladies hurried to bring him wine and refreshments, and as they did so, their ankle bells tinkled melodiously. Okay. Hiranyakashipu allowed these women to wander at ease throughout the palace, their faces reflecting in the gem-studded walls. However, he showed a very different demeanor to the gods, treating them like menial servants often beating them or shouting at them. They had to bow down and offer obeisance at his feet whenever he passed. He would frequently kick or whip them for no reason. Dwelling thus in the Indra's former palace, Hiranyakashipu ruled the universe with an iron hand. He enjoyed strong wines and liquors, and his coppery eyes constantly rolled in a drunken stupor. Despite his degraded behavior, because of his past austerities, all the gods except for Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu had to worship and serve him. Because of his great mystic powers, Hiranyakashipu could control everyone in all the planetary systems. In his court, Narad and the Vidyadhars accompanied the Gandharvas Vishwavasu and Tumburu in singing his glories as Apsaras danced for his pleasure. The strict followers of Varnashram performed sacrifice for his pleasure, accompanied by extravagant gifts. Hiranyakashipu accepted all the sacrificial oblations for himself and gave none to the gods. Out of fear of him, all the islands of Bhumandala provided food grains as profuse as some milk of Surabhi cows, and the inhabitants of outer space also delivered wondrous gifts. The seven oceans of Bhumandala, along with their tributaries, provided many variety of gems and jewels for his pleasure. He regularly sported in the valleys between the mountain ranges of Bhumandal. There were trees provided fruits and flowers abundantly in all seasons. The demon was so powerful that he single-handedly performed of all the gods' functions. Many months passed, but despite his unrivaled power and supremacy, Hiranyakashipu felt dissatisfied at heart. Sitting one day with the celestial nymph of exquisite beauty on his knees while another fanned him, he sighed wantonly. What else could he find to amuse him? Snapping his fingers, he beckoned his manservant. Indra, dressed as a servant, obediently approached the throne and bowed. How can I serve you, Lord? Sing for me. Indra bowed his head and pressed his hands together, grinding his teeth as he turned away. However humiliating, but what could he do? Brahma had made the lemon practically invincible. The gods cleared the god cleared his throat and sang. After a minute, Hiranyakashipu lashed out with his foot and sent Indra said Indra sprawling. He laughed raucously. You croak like a frog, Indra. Surya blazed up in a fury and made as if to rush at Hiranyakashipu, but Chandra's Brahma had made the demon practically invincible. The god cleared his throat and sang. After a minute, the Hiranyakashipu lashed out with his foot and sent Indra sprawling. The loud raucously. You croak like a frog, Indra. Surya blazed up in a fury and made as if to rush at Hiranyakashipu, but Chandra held him back. Do not be foolish, we can never overcome him. With difficulty, Surya restrained himself. Kanda was right. Hiranyakashipu lashed out with his foot and sent Indra sprawling. He laughed raucously. "You croak like a frog, Indra." Surya blazed up in a fury and made it as if to rush at Hiranyakashipu, but Chandra held him back. "Do not be foolish. We can never overcome him." With difficulty, Surya restrained himself. Chandra was right. The demon was too strong. He remembered hearing from Narad. Now he and his equally powerful brother Hiranaksha had been Vaikuntha residents cursed by four Brahmas, four Kumar brothers. That made them mighty enough, but with the addition of Brahma's blessings, Hiranyakashipu was unstoppable. Noticing Surya's distress, Hiranyakashipu spoke to him in a mocking voice. "You look eager to please me. Come alleviate my boredom with some acrobatics." That night, when the demon slept, Indra, Surya, Chandra, Vayu, Agni, and other principal gods consulted together in their servants' headquarters. How can we continue to live? How can we continue to live like this? It is intolerable, Professor. Protested Indra. "There's nothing we can do to stop him. We are lucky to be alive," said Chandra. They sat with heads hung down. Then Surya suggested, "Let us petition Lord Vishnu to intervene and save us." "Do you think I have not been doing that?" said Indra. "I am constantly praying to him, but he does not respond." Some of the older gods nodded their heads morosely, confirming they had the same experience. Agni said, "We must remain hopeful that he will hear us and Some of the other gods nodded their heads morosely, confirming that they had the same experience. Agni said, "Let us fast and renounce sleep. With our minds completely controlled, we should constantly pray to the Lord." We should constantly pray to the Lord. We must remain hopeful that He will hear us and rescue us. Accepting this advice, the gods performed severe penance, and while constantly praying within themselves, we offer prostrated obeisances to the direction Accepting this advice, the gods performed severe penance while constantly praying within themselves. We offered prostrated to the direction where the Supreme Personality resides. Even the great sages go from where the great sages go down from where, having gone, they never return. Weeks passed and gods became encircled. Weeks passed and the gods became emaciated and weak, but they continued praying. Then one night they heard the deep and soothing voice of Vishnu. Most learned and intelligent gods, continue to engage in my service, discuss my glories, chant my holy names, and offer me prayers. Discuss my glories, chant my holy names, and offer my prayers, for this is the way to attain good fortune for all men. I know of Hiranyakashipu's activities, and I shall surely end them. soon. Be present and be patient. The startled gods looked exactly at each there, each other. The Lord had heard them. He was going to rescue them. They fell to their knees. I'll repeat that. The startled gods looked excitedly at each other. The Lord had heard them. He was going to rescue them. They fell to their knees. "O Lord, please save us quickly," begged Indra. You gods represent me. This is an emblem of Vedic culture. Vishnu reassured them, "Anyone who out of envy does not respect you, the scriptures, cows, Brahmins, Vaishnavas, or religious principles will soon meet with destruction. You just need to wait a while until Hiranyakashipu assaults my great devotee, Prahlad. His son, the small heart, when Hiranyakashipu tries to hurt Prahlad, I will quickly appear and kill him." The gods bowed to the unseen Lord, and feeling assured that Hiranyakashipu was as good as the deed, they returned to the quarters and rested. Yudhishthir shook his head. "Okay, you just need to wait a while until Hiranyakashipu assaults my great devotee Prahlad, his son. The small child will be gentle and with no This small child will be gentle and with no trace of hostility in their heart. When Hiranyakashipu tries to hurt Prahlad, I will quickly appear and this small child will be gentle and with no trace of hostility in his will be gentle and with no trace of hostility in his heart towards my heart towards anyone, and his devotional service is to me will be extraordinary when Hiranyakashipu tries to hurt Prahlad, I will quickly appear and kill him." The gods bowed to the unseen Lord, and feeling assured that Hiranyakashipu was as good as dead, they returned to their quarters and rested. Yudhishthira shook his head incomprehensibility. Hiranyakashipu attacked his own son. Why? Even the most ignorant soul show compassion to their children. "Yes, let me explain," said Narad. "The demon had 4 wonderful, well-qualified sons. The best of them was Prahlad, a pure devotee of Krishna and reservoir of sorry. Yes, let me explain," said Narad. "The demon had 4 wonderful, well-educated children. Okay. Yudhishthira shook his head uncomprehendingly. Hiranyakashipu attacked his own son. Yudhishthira shook his head uncomprehendingly. Hiranyakashipu attacked his own son. Why? Even the most ignorant show compassion to the children. Yes, let me explain," said Narad Faraj. "The demon had 4 children, well-equipped sons, and the best of the Prahlad, pure devotee of Sri Krishna. Yes, let me explain, said Narad. The demon had four wonderful, well-occupied sons. The best of them was Prahlad, the pure devotee of Krishna and a reservoir of Brahma. Eh, Why even the most ignorant show compassion to their children? Yes, let me explain, not everything. Let me explain, said Narad. The demon had four wonderful, well-occupied sons. The best of them was Prahlad, one who qualified, uh, well-qualified sons. The best of them we Yes, let me explain, said Narad. The demon had four wonderful, well-educated sons. The best of them was Prahlad, a pure devotee of Krishna and reservoir of transcendental qualities. Instead, all the attributes of great, highly qualified Brahmin adorned him. Determined to know the absolute truth, he exhibited the highest moral character. He fully controlled his mind and absolute truth. He exhibited the highest moral character. He failed. He fully controlled his mind and senses. He was taken. He was kind to everyone because, having their first interest in mind, the meanly served his respectable superiors and showed loving care to the poor. He meanly served his respectful superiors and showed loving care to the poor. Like a father, he was like brother to his equals, and he treated his teachers, spiritual masters, and God brothers and representative of the supreme personality of of supreme Lord. Although he had all material assets such as good education, wealth, beauty, and aristocratic birth, he nevertheless was free of pride. Yudhishthir said, "How amazing, considering whose sons he whose son he was." True, affirmed Narad, though he was born in an aristocratic family, he explained the characteristic of the. For example, he explained the characteristics of an advanced devotee from childhood. For example, he was undisturbed even when you put in danger. He had uh, although had all materials assets, which is good education, wealth, beauty, and aristocratic birth, he nevertheless was free of pride. So God had all the opulences, but he never had pride. Yudhishthir said, "How amazing, considering whose son he was." True, affirmed Narad. Although he was born into an atheistic family, he exhibited the characteristics of an advanced devotee from childhood. For example, he was undisturbed even when put in danger. He had no interest in those sections of the Vedas which teach us how to increase one's material enjoyment. Devoid of worldly desires, he considered mainly uh, okay, Yudhishthir said, how amazing considering whose son he was. True, affirmed Narad. Although he was born into an atheistic family, he exhibited the characteristics of an advanced devotee from childhood. For example, he was undisturbed even when put in danger. He had no interest in those actions of the Vedas which teach how to increase one's material enjoyment. Devoid of worldly desires, he considered material gain useless. He controlled his senses and the life air. He controlled his senses and the life air with steady spiritual intelligence and strong determination, and subdued all lusty desires. Learned saints and Vaishnavas still glorify his accomplishments. After realizing Krishna, he acquired the same exalted qualities as the Lord, so much so that today, in whatever assembly there is a discussion about saints and devotees, they always speak of Prahlad. Even the gods glorify him. Learned saints and Vaishnavas still glorifies his accomplishments. After realizing Krishna, he acquired the same exalted qualities as Lord, so much so that today, in whatever assembly there is discussion about saints and devotees, they always speak of Prahlad. Even the gods glorify him, although normally they disapprove of those born in atheistic families. No one can fully enumerate his transcendental qualities which arise from his unflinching, spontaneous devotion to Krishna. He was a very great soul. Yudhishthir said, when did he attain God realization? From the very beginning of his childhood, replied Narad. Prahlad always remembered Krishna. Unlike other children, he had no interest in childish play. He could not relate to materialists who were interested in sense gratification. Surely, said Yudhishthir, there were breaks in his meditation. He had to walk to school, sit in his class, eat his meals, speak with his teachers, and do other day-to-day business. Narad said, there was no interruption to his meditation on Krishna. The Lord oversaw his material activities with no need for Prahlad to give them a second thought. So we can see how Lord helps and how Lord takes over in serving his devotee. What do you mean? Asked Yudhishthir. Consider this example. Parents take care of their baby's every need. They bathe, dress, and feed him. The child need not have the least concern about anything. So it was with Krishna and Prahlad. So you mean he was not conscious of the external world? Yes, that's right. Did he feel anything? Of course, said Narad. But all these emotions were connected to Krishna. For example, if in meditation he saw Krishna was far from him, he would cry out in anxiety. Then in his meditation he would see the Lord running to him, calling out, my dear child, do not cry, I am coming. Prahlad would dance in jubilation on hearing this, thinking, here is my Lord is coming. Sometimes in complete ecstasy, Prahlad would imitate Krishna's pastimes. Sometimes when he could not see Krishna, he would close his eyes in grief, thinking, where shall I go? Where can I find my Krishna? Then he would feel the touch of Krishna's hand and see him in the core of his heart. He would become motionless, overwhelmed with spiritual ecstasy, and tears would glide down from his half-closed eyes. How did he attain such exalted devotion? By receiving the association of perfect, unalloyed devotees who had no attraction to the enjoyments of this world. Yet he was born into demoniac society, said Yudhishthir. All his associates were atheists and of low character. Did this not adversely affect him? Narad laughed and shook his head. Quite the opposite. Seeing him in spiritual ecstasy, others, even the spiritually ignorant, became purified and experienced transcendental bliss like him. Wonderful, exclaimed Yudhishthir. My dear Yudhishthir, it was this son Prahlad who Hiranyakashipu tortured. Yudhishthir looked incredulous. It is astonishing that anyone would want to harm such a holy saint, especially their son. O best of the celestial sages, please tell me why Hiranyakashipu was so antagonistic toward him. Parents often chastise disobedient children for their benefit, but I have never heard of a father maliciously attacking their child. As Prahlad had all good qualities, he must have been obedient, well behaved, and respectful to his father. How could his father have hated him so much that he tried to kill him? I shall explain, said Narad. So we'll continue next time with chapter 5, Prahlad, saintly son of a demon. Thank you for joining. Hariam Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Raj Bhagavatam ki jai.